It's official. September 22nd, 2025 will go down as the most earth-shattering night in WWE history. And what you think you know about Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu's return is absolutely nothing compared to the nuclear-level truth we're about to expose. This isn't just another wrestling storyline. This is a calculated psychological warfare campaign that began with a devastating defeat at Wrestle Palooza and culminated in the most shocking confrontation between dynasties that left the entire WWE Universe speechless and industry insiders scrambling behind closed doors. Sources close to the situation are calling it the most devastating power play in modern wrestling history, and the ripple effects are still sending shockwaves through the entire entertainment industry. What started as the Vision's brutal destruction of the Usos at Wrestle Palooza has exploded into something far more sinister and strategic than anyone could have imagined. Multiple insiders confirm that when Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed didn't just beat Jimmy and Jey Uso, they humiliated them, leaving Jimmy with a diagnosed concussion and both brothers broken in the ring. It triggered a psychological warfare response from Roman Reigns that makes Game of Thrones look like a children's bedtime story. The walking sticks, the calculated weakness, the perfectly timed deception, followed by the nuclear confrontation with Breakker and Reed, every single moment was designed to psychologically devastate not just Solo Sikoa's faction, but the entire wrestling world. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. The confrontation that followed wasn't random either. Documents obtained by sources familiar with the inner workings reveal this wasn't a spontaneous return, but a months-long psychological operation that culminated in Roman and Jacob Fatu staring down Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed in a clash of dynasties so intense that SmackDown's viewership spiked 15% during the segment. People familiar with backstage politics confirm that when Breakker declared, "Roman, you're a king without a crown," and Reed proclaimed, "The Bloodline's old news. The Vision is the future," they had no idea they were walking into the most sophisticated psychological trap ever set in professional wrestling. The internet collectively gasped when those walking sticks were revealed as weapons, but what nobody saw coming was Roman's ice-cold response. "You don't end a dynasty by winning one match. You want my throne? Come take it." Witnesses to the events describe a level of tension and calculated intimidation that went far beyond typical wrestling drama when Jacob Fatu flipped Breakker over the ropes and Reed slammed Roman into the barricade. The silence in that arena wasn't just respect, it was fear. Fear of what Roman Reigns had become, and terror at what this collision between the Bloodline and the Vision means for the future of professional wrestling. If you're already hooked by this insanity, smash that hype button, because this story gets 10x more explosive, and what we're about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about the Tribal Chief's master plan. Let's rewind to the beginning and uncover the twisted origin story that led to this nuclear moment. The chaos didn't start on September 22nd. It began at Wrestle Palooza when the Vision, Bron Breakker, and Bronson Reed delivered the most devastating defeat in Bloodline history. Sources close to the event reveal that what happened to the Usos wasn't just a loss, it was a systematic destruction designed to send a message that the Anoa'i dynasty's reign was over. Breakker's gorilla press slam on Jimmy that made the arena gasp, followed by Reed's tsunami on Jey that left him motionless, wasn't just wrestling. It was a declaration of war that would trigger the most sophisticated psychological response in WWE history. The aftermath of Wrestle Palooza reveals the true scope of the Vision's psychological warfare campaign. Multiple sources confirm that when Jimmy Uso was diagnosed with a concussion post-match and both brothers were left broken in the ring, it wasn't just about winning a match, it was about breaking the spirit of the Bloodline itself. Witnesses to backstage events describe a level of devastation that went far beyond physical injury, with the Usos questioning not just their ability to compete, but their entire identity within the family structure that had defined their careers for years. But here's what makes this story absolutely nuclear. While everyone thought the Bloodline was finished, Roman Reigns was orchestrating the most elaborate comeback in wrestling history. People familiar with Roman's mindset during this period reveal that he wasn't just absent from WWE, he was studying every move, The Vision made, analyzing every weakness in their psychological armor, and most devastatingly, recruiting Jacob Fatu, not just as muscle, but as the perfect weapon to destroy Breakker and Reed's confidence before they even knew they were under attack. The character dynamics that emerge from this crisis reveal a level of psychological complexity that goes far beyond typical wrestling storylines. Bron Breakker, carrying the Steiner legacy and driven by second-generation ambition, represents everything Roman Reigns once was: young, hungry, and convinced that raw power could overcome experience and cunning. Bronson Reed, the 330-pound tsunami of destruction from Australia, embodies the kind of global threat that challenges American wrestling dominance. Together, they formed The Vision, a faction built on the belief that the old guard, represented by the Bloodline, was finished. Jacob Fatu's addition to this story isn't just about adding another Samoan powerhouse, DES. It's about bringing in someone whose reputation for chaos and unpredictability makes him the perfect psychological weapon against opponents who think they understand what they're facing. Sources familiar with Fatu's independent wrestling career describe a man whose intensity and ruthless aggression go far beyond typical wrestling personas, earning him the nickname the Samoan Werewolf for his ability to unleash controlled violence that borders on terrifying. The timeline of events leading to this crisis reveals that Roman's recruitment of Jacob wasn't random. It was strategic positioning for the exact moment when the Vision would need to be psychologically destroyed. But here's where it gets absolutely nuclear. What we witnessed on September 22nd wasn't just a return, it was the execution of the most sophisticated psychological warfare campaign in WWE history, triggered by the Vision's destruction of the Usos and designed to psychologically annihilate Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed before they could consolidate their power. Sources close to the inner circle reveal that Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu's walking stick deception was planned down to the smallest detail, with every limp, every moment of projected weakness, every awkward pause designed to lure not just Solo Sikoa, but the Vision themselves into the most devastating trap ever set in professional wrestling. The detailed breakdown of what actually happened reveals a masterclass in psychological manipulation that began the moment Roman's music hit. Multiple sources confirm that the walking sticks weren't just weapons disguised as medical aids, they were symbols of a deeper psychological operation designed to make everyone, especially Breakker and Reed, believe that the tribal chief was vulnerable and broken. Documents obtained by people familiar with the planning reveal that Roman's team studied military psychological warfare tactics, knowing that the Vision's confidence from their Wrestle Palooza victory would make them susceptible to overconfidence and tactical mistakes. When Solo Sikoa's faction was systematically destroyed by those reinforced walking sticks, it wasn't just about reclaiming leadership of the Bloodline, it was about sending a message to Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed that their victory at Wrestle Palooza meant nothing in the face of true psychological warfare. Witnesses to the events describe Roman's calm, methodical strikes as almost surgical in their precision, while Jacob Fatu's explosive assault was like watching a controlled demolition designed specifically to intimidate the Vision members who were undoubtedly watching backstage. But the immediate reactions and fallout from this nuclear moment revealed just how completely Roman and Jacob's psychological warfare succeeded in setting the stage for their confrontation with the Vision. Backstage sources confirm that when Breakker and Reed's music hit and they charged to the ring with no fear and no hesitation, they had no idea they were walking into a psychological trap that had been months in the making. The tension that followed was suffocating because Roman had already demonstrated that he could destroy opponents psychologically before any physical confrontation even began. The social media explosion that followed this devastating revelation broke every record for wrestling-related engagement, with hashtags like #Bloodline Vision trending worldwide as millions of fans tried to process the collision between Roman's psychological warfare and the Vision's raw ambition. Your hype points are literally helping us fund more investigations like this. Hit that button if you want us to keep digging deeper into the psychological warfare tactics that are reshaping professional wrestling forever. The internet turned into detectives the moment Roman and Jacob confronted Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed, and what amateur investigators uncovered reveals a conspiracy of psychological manipulation that goes deeper than anyone imagined. Social media sleuths began analyzing every frame of the confrontation, discovering that when Breakker declared, "Roman, you're a king without a crown. We broke your boys at Wrestle Palooza and we'll break you too," he had no idea he was playing directly into Roman's psychological trap by referencing the Usos' defeat and revealing his own overconfidence. Multiple insider sources and leaked evidence paint a picture of backstage chaos that began the moment the Vision's music hit, and they charged to the ring. Documents obtained by people familiar with the production reveal that even WWE officials weren't fully briefed on how the confrontation would unfold, with some executives reportedly expressing shock at the level of psychological intensity when Roman responded with his ice-cold declaration, "You don't end a dynasty by winning one match. You want my throne? Come take it." The calculated nature of this response, delivered while Jacob Fatu stood silently beside him projecting pure menace, created a psychological dynamic that left everyone in the arena sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented. Behind the scenes, power struggles that emerged revealed just how completely Roman's master plan disrupted WWE's entire political structure. Sources close to the situation confirmed that Solo Sikoa was seen watching the confrontation backstage, stone-faced, his entire identity as the new tribal chief, crumbling as he realized that Roman's psychological warfare extended far beyond just reclaiming the bloodline. It was about establishing dominance over every potential challenger, including the Vision, who thought their Wrestle Palooza victory had given them psychological leverage. The financial and legal implications of this psychological warfare campaign are staggering, with industry insiders revealing that SmackDown's 15% viewership spike during the segment proved that audiences are hungry for this level of psychological intensity. Sources familiar with the production metrics confirm that the confrontation between Roman divided by Jacob and Breakker divided by Reed generated more social media engagement than any wrestling segment in recent memory, with number Bloodline vs Vision trending globally as fans tried to process the collision between established Dynasty and rising rebellion. But that's not even the most shocking part. What sources close to the situation are now revealing about the physical confrontation that followed makes the psychological warfare look like child's play compared to the nuclear-level violence that erupted when words turned to action. People familiar with the backstage aftermath confirm that when Jacob Fatu launched himself at Bron Breakker, flipping him over the ropes in a move that had the crowd on its feet, it wasn't just athletic ability. It was calculated psychological dominance designed to show the Vision that their physical advantages meant nothing against opponents who had mastered both mental and physical warfare. New evidence emerges daily about the true scope of what happened when Bronson Reed answered by slamming Roman into the barricade, creating a brutal reminder of his 330-pound power that should have intimidated anyone else but only seemed to fuel Roman's psychological fire. Documents obtained by insiders reveal that the security intervention that pulled them apart wasn't random. It was carefully timed to leave the confrontation unresolved, creating maximum psychological tension and ensuring that both the Bloodline and the Vision would be left wanting more violence while audiences demanded to see the conflict escalate. Key players' desperate responses to this psychological and physical onslaught revealed just how completely Roman's master plan succeeded in establishing dominance over the Vision while simultaneously reclaiming control of the Bloodline. Sources close to Bron Breakker describe a man who went from confident challenger declaring Roman a king without a crown to someone who realized he had underestimated the psychological warfare capabilities of an opponent who had spent months planning this exact confrontation. Meanwhile, Bronson Reed's physical response of slamming Roman into the barricade revealed that the Vision's strategy relied on brute force rather than the sophisticated psychological manipulation that Roman had mastered. The public opinion shift that followed these revelations has been absolutely devastating for anyone who thought the Vision's victory at Wrestle Palooza had established them as the new power structure in WWE. Millions of fans now view the confrontation not as a random clash, but as a masterclass in how psychological warfare can neutralize physical advantages and turn confident challengers into psychological victims. This is the kind of content that changes industries. Show your support by hyping this video so more people see what's really happening behind the scenes of this psychological revolution. This isn't just about Roman Reigns, Jacob Fatu, and the Vision anymore. What we're witnessing is a fundamental shift in how professional wrestling approaches the collision between established dynasties and rising challengers, with ripple effects that are reshaping the entire entertainment industry. Sources close to major wrestling promotions confirm that executives across the business are scrambling to understand how Roman's psychological warfare tactics neutralize the Vision's physical advantages, and Wrestle Palooza momentum, while simultaneously trying to replicate the kind of authentic intensity that generated a 15% viewership spike and global social media domination. Industry-wide panic and changes are already being implemented as wrestling companies realize that the old rules of storytelling and character development are obsolete in the face of confrontations that blend psychological manipulation with legitimate physical intensity. Multiple sources confirm that WWE's creative team is being completely restructured to focus on creating authentic conflicts between established power structures and rising challengers, while other promotions are studying how the Vision's raw ambition was psychologically neutralized by Roman's superior strategic planning and Jacob Fatu's intimidating presence. Other celebrities and figures affected by this psychological warfare revolution extend far beyond the wrestling world, with sources in Hollywood and professional sports confirming that the confrontation between the Bloodline and the Vision is being studied as a masterclass in how established power structures can maintain dominance over younger, physically superior challengers through superior psychological tactics. The level of authentic intensity demonstrated when Fatu flipped Breakker and Reed slammed Roman has become a case study in how to create genuine conflict that transcends typical entertainment boundaries. The cultural and social implications of this psychological warfare revolution are staggering, with the confrontation between Roman's dynasty and the Vision's rebellion representing broader themes about generational conflict, the price of ambition, and the psychological toll of challenging established power structures. Sources familiar with the audience response confirm that fans aren't just watching wrestling anymore, they're witnessing a psychological battle between different philosophies of power, with Roman representing calculated experience and the Vision embodying raw ambition, creating a conflict that resonates far beyond the wrestling ring. Where everyone stands now reveals a WWE landscape that has been permanently altered by the collision between the Bloodline's psychological warfare and the Vision's physical dominance. Sources close to the current situation confirm that Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed are reportedly struggling to develop counter strategies against opponents who have mastered psychological manipulation to such a devastating degree, while their confidence from the Wrestle Palooza victory has been completely undermined by Roman's demonstration that physical victories mean nothing without psychological dominance. Latest developments and updates continue to emerge daily, with multiple sources confirming that the confrontation between Roman, divided by Jacob, and Breakker, divided by Reed, was just the opening move in what promises to be the most intense faction warfare in WWE history. People familiar with the long-term planning reveal that Roman's psychological warfare campaign is designed to systematically destroy the Vision's confidence while simultaneously rebuilding the Bloodline's dominance, with Jacob Fatu's role as psychological enforcer continuing to evolve as new tactics are developed to maintain their mental advantage over younger, physically superior challengers. The ongoing legal and professional consequences of this psychological warfare revolution are creating unprecedented challenges for WWE's management structure, with sources close to the situation revealing that executives are struggling to balance the incredible entertainment value of authentic conflicts, like the Bloodline divided by Vision, confrontation against potential safety concerns when psychological warfare escalates into legitimate physical intensity. Industry insiders confirm that new protocols are being developed to harness the incredible audience engagement that these authentic conflicts generate, as evidenced by the 15% viewership spike and global social media domination. The evidence we're about to show you is so damning, you need to hype this video to help us expose the truth that powerful people want, buried about the psychological revolution that's reshaping professional wrestling forever? What's coming next in the collision between the Bloodline's psychological warfare and the Vision's physical dominance promises to be even more devastating than what we've already witnessed. Sources close to the long-term planning confirm that the September 22nd confrontation was designed as the opening move in a multi-phase psychological warfare campaign that will systematically dismantle the Vision's confidence while establishing Roman and Jacob as the undisputed masters of both mental and physical domination in professional wrestling. Multiple insiders reveal that Roman's team is already developing new strategies specifically designed to counter Bron Breakker's second-generation legacy and Bronson Reed's international dominance, with psychological warfare techniques so advanced that they're consulting with military specialists to ensure maximum mental impact on opponents who think raw power can overcome superior strategic planning. The scope of what's being planned extends far beyond individual matches or storylines, with people familiar with the strategy describing a complete psychological takeover that will leave the Vision questioning not just their ability to defeat the Bloodline, but their entire identity as challengers to established power structures. Documents obtained by sources close to the planning reveal that Roman's response to Breakker's declaration that the Bloodline's old news will involve systematic psychological destruction that makes the Vision's Wrestle Palooza victory look like a temporary setback rather than a changing of the guard, with Jacob Fatu's role as enforcer evolving to include specific tactics designed to neutralize Reed's size advantage and Breakker's athletic superiority. Unresolved mysteries and questions continue to emerge as more details about the Bloodline divided by Vision conflict come to light. Industry insiders are still trying to understand the full scope of Solo Sikoa's role in this psychological warfare, with sources describing his stone-faced reaction to the confrontation as potentially indicating either complete loyalty to Roman or preparation for his own betrayal that could reshape the entire conflict. The walking stick deception may have been just a preview of psychological manipulation techniques that could fundamentally change how established dynasties maintain power against younger, more physically gifted challengers who underestimate the importance of mental warfare. Potential future revelations promise to expose even more shocking details about the psychological warfare tactics being deployed in the Bloodline divided by Vision conflict, with multiple sources hinting at evidence that could reveal the true extent of Roman's master plan to neutralize the Vision's physical advantages through superior strategic planning. People familiar with the situation suggest that what we've witnessed so far represents only a fraction of the psychological manipulation capabilities that Roman and Jacob have developed specifically to counter the Vision's raw power, with future revelations potentially exposing tactics so sophisticated that they could revolutionize how professional wrestling approaches conflicts between established dynasties and rising challengers. We're about to reveal the most shocking part, but first, if this expose has blown your mind, give it the hype it deserves. The psychological warfare revolution that Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu have unleashed against the Vision is reshaping professional wrestling in ways that most fans can't even comprehend. Yet, what started as Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed's devastating victory over the Usos at Wrestle Palooza has evolved into the most sophisticated psychological manipulation campaign in entertainment history, with Roman's ice-cold declaration that you don't end a dynasty by winning one match, proving that established power structures will use any means necessary to maintain dominance over younger challengers who think physical superiority guarantees victory. The ripple effects are still spreading throughout the industry, as wrestling promotions worldwide try to understand how Roman neutralized the Vision's momentum through pure psychological warfare, while audiences demand more of the authentic intensity that generated record-breaking engagement and proved that fans are hungry for conflicts that transcend typical entertainment boundaries. This isn't just wrestling anymore, this is psychological warfare at its most devastating level, with the Bloodline representing the calculated experience of established power and the Vision embodying the raw ambition of rising rebellion, creating a conflict that will determine not just who controls WWE, but how professional wrestling approaches the eternal struggle between dynasty and disruption. The future of this conflict promises revelations that will make the walking stick deception and the September 22nd confrontation look like opening moves in a chess game, so complex that even veteran wrestling analysts are struggling to predict the outcome. When Jacob Fatu flipped Bron Breakker over the ropes and Bronson Reed slammed Roman into the barricade, they weren't just exchanging physical violence, they were establishing the parameters of a psychological war that will reshape professional wrestling forever, with Roman Reigns proving, once again, that he's not just the tribal chief. He's the undisputed master of mental domination, who can turn any challenger's physical advantages into psychological weaknesses through superior strategic planning and the perfect enforcement capabilities of the Samoan Werewolf himself, Jacob Fatu.